Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is the United States karma. So I had spent plenty of time looking at President Trump's chart and seeing how he's basically a firecracker spiritually. He is. He's wherever he lands, he's meant to kind of blow things up, to be honest. But a master, I'll just say that, according to his chart, a master in many ways. But I thought, you know what, let's put the president down. Let's look at the United States chart. And a couple things actually surprised me. So I thought this would be a good topic to talk about right now, seeing as we're looking at the big picture. Well, for starters, if you don't know, the sun is a Cancer, July 4th, 1776. I personally believe the United States has a Sagittarius rising based around 5:17 p.m. Final signature time of the Constitution. Final signature would be the moment of birth, not the first signature, by the way. Just my own theory there as far as the astrological debate on time. And what that means is that Saturn is in our first house. In fact, the galactic center, the eye of God, is in the first house of the United States chart, which means, not to pat United States on the back, but United States is supposed to be here scoring a touchdown for the big picture. You know, the galactic center, our ego is for the good of all, and it's designed that way. Doesn't mean we're there yet. But Saturn in our first house means that the United States is basically in a once every 30-year transit where we change our identity. We change what we chase after. We change how we defend ourselves. We change what our story is. It's Sagittarius, so it's a new story, which we've changed many times, if you think about it. And it's a very powerful transit. Any astrologer would tell you, if you have Saturn in your first, you're going through a tough time. The universe is making you grow up and make better decisions. So the United States is in this sort of karma now. Another interesting thing I saw was that the United States has Chiron at 20 degrees in the 5th house. And Chiron in the 5th means that our nation was born from broken hearts. So that's kind of an interesting thing. We have the karma of a broken heart. We have the karma of ego involved in a broken heart. So you could say, what is our karma if we're a brand new country? All the people who came together, to form the country, all collaboratively had a broken heart, is what Chiron there would say. And that it's our legacy and destiny to heal our hearts. So the spiritual energy behind the country is a broken heart that wants to be healed, which is very interesting. Now, Uranus, which is the planet of President Trump, Uranus is actually has crossed our Chiron, our sore spot, since President Trump went running for office. So our whole deep wound of whether or not our heart will be let down again or not has come to the surface karmically. And by the way, this happens once every 86 years. So our heart wasn't struck like this. The last time the United States heart was struck like this was right before World War II. Adolf Hitler. Last time our heart was struck in our core wound. So it's interesting, too, to know that we had a heart thing going on when we went to World War II. Well, our heart did go out to the world, I think. But Uranus over Chiron, that does mean that you're kind of being forced to heal a certain wound. And it also means that the solution, it's at 20 degrees, the solution is to follow our feelings and follow our heart. So when you come from a broken heart, the answer is you follow your heart. So we need to keep that in mind. Another interesting thing is, of course, we have Pluto in the 2nd, and that's been there for a little while now, and that's our financial uncertainty. And the United States is going to go through financial uncertainty for some time, particularly as it leads up to Pluto conjuncting Pluto, which has been what I've been reporting on. 2020, 2024 is when that's going to happen. But what's fascinating is, since last September, when Jupiter went into Libra, because we have Libra in our 11th house, our house of society, that means the United States is expanding and redefining its definition of the world and its definition in the world. So the United States itself is trying to figure out where it belongs in the world with Jupiter there. And when Jupiter goes into Scorpio, which is next year, we're going to go through a karma transit. I don't really want to think about that right now, but I do know that this year, looking at the United States chart, this year looks like we're exactly where we need to be, and indeed it looks like we are redefining. Now, who defines the country? The people do. The people define the country, and look at how we are, historically, only in certain times, look at how we are rising up. It seems like protest, seeing protests on the news now is like the 70s. It's like as common as everyday news, right? And we'll see if this continues, but we're certainly changing, and we're certainly falling into, I think, what we need to do. What's interesting is looking at the upcoming eclipses. That's the last thing I want to talk about. We have a lunar eclipse on Friday in Aquarius, and that's going to hit the United States in the 3rd house, which means that probably some bad news comes out, some sort of shift in policy, some sort of dramatic something. And it might be that truth comes out. It might be that some sort of system we had falls away. Whatever it is, it's going to be intellectual. It's going to be probably something in our minds that we hear about, information. And what's interesting also is the solar eclipse at the end of February is in Pisces, and that actually falls in our 3rd house. No, that's going to fall in our 3rd house also. And what it is going to be like a big dose of compassion energy that lights up. So it's kind of like the United States has sort of harsh things fall apart in its intellect and its communication, and then there's a real powerful, compassionate part of us that comes out. In our natal chart, which is very interesting to me if you follow astrology, and if you don't, and sorry folks, I want to get a little nerdy this time. I found what's interesting in the eclipses of the United States. So the United States has a prenatal solar eclipse in Pisces at 0 degrees. That means that the United States is a country that is actually here to serve spirit, but it's at 0 degrees, which means when we were born, we were not serving spirit. Okay, like not at all. It also means that there's a part of us that's going, and one day we're going to. A 0 is interesting. It's like completely off and then completely on. It's Scorpio is what 0 is. So what's interesting is the solar eclipse that happens at the end of the month in February conjuncts the United States sleeping solar eclipse. All right. In fact, Washington was a Pisces, most likely. So he kind of was it's funny that a Pisces started it, and we have this sleeping 0 degree. The other interesting thing I saw, so that's our solar eclipse. It might open up. The other interesting thing is the lunar eclipse then is that is 15 Leo. And what that means is that our country has the karma of not loving itself. Interesting. And it's like, really? You think we did love ourselves? All we do is talk about how great we are. Yes, talk about. Like, I don't think we're in our hearts. And I think we're not in our hearts because we have Chiron in the 5th house. We're a culture that comes from a broken heart, but is very emotional. Okay, and we look to be friendly to the world, Sagittarius, but the truth is that we, our nation, our people, probably all have somewhere broken hearts, and the solution, the lunar eclipse, is to be mindful of our heart and operate from our heart. I think when we operate from our heart, that sleeping solar eclipse in Pisces will awaken, and the United States will be a leader for compassion. I don't mean to be like an extreme patriot or anything, but I've always really felt that, you know, in the global story of the earth, it was one day destined that the people all come together under one roof. And I think that the United States represents that notion. It's not that we're better. It's that we have the karma, I think, of representing society at its cutting edge. And we often screw up and slow down and hold up the ball. You know what I mean? And money and politics and everything else. But you know, it is an interesting time. And whatever we do here, here's the interesting thing, and I'll close with this. Whatever President Trump's term is pretty much going to define the United States' character for the next 30 years. So the way we respond right now, it's not so much what he does, but the way you respond and what you show up for is super important. So I recommend you do it because you'll kind of go down in the nation's character. All right, my friend. Well, that's fun to talk about. I love talking about stuff like politics and astrology. That's like two fun things coming together for Sensei. Hey.